Hi there, welcome back to Ravenous Babble. My name is Dan, and this week we'll be babbling on about where I've been for the past 2 weeks. You may have noticed that I've been kind of MIA. I haven't had a chance to get a video out for one reason or another. There's been quite a few over the last 2 weeks, but mostly it all has to do with the preparation for the SCGCON in New Jersey that happened this previous weekend. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, about my experience there. We have some Outsiders stuff to talk about, Pro Tour 3 to talk about, and a couple odds and ends. So let's get into it. First off, I want to bring up a new, or rather relocated, LGS. Top Deck Games used to be located in Collingswood, New Jersey. They have very recently moved to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, so if you're in the area, check it out. The venue is huge. They have all kinds of stuff. If you're in any card game, they probably have it. They have a huge selection of sleeves, dice, minis, board games. They have a gigantic play area. Like, if you're into anything nerdy, go check it out. They recently started running events again as well, so they now have Flesh and Blood on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. Again, if you're in the Cherry Hill area, come out to play. If you're new to the game and you're a little nervous, or you're interested in learning in general, come on out. We're very welcoming. Don't be nervous about it. Don't have any anxiety. Come out and play. Have a good time. Also, Top Deck Games is hosting a charity event on January 28th at 11 a.m. It is an Extra Life fundraiser event, so if you are looking to jam some games of Fab and also have it go to a good cause, come on out. I will put the Facebook link for the event in the description down below. Alright, so let's get into the Outsiders hype. About 2 weeks ago at this point, we got the reveal of which heroes are going to be in Outsiders, both adult and young. So we know which heroes are going to be draftable, and just in general which adult heroes are going to be in the set. So those heroes, we have 2 Rangers, 2 Assassins, and 2 Ninjas. And those heroes are as follows. We have Azalea, Riptide, who's a new Ranger, Arachne, Yuzuri, which is a new Assassin, Katsu, and Benji. Now all of those heroes are available in Young. Arachne isn't the Arachne from Dynasty, it is a new Young hero that is not accompanied by an adult hero. For adult heroes in a set, not that it has any relevance to draft, we have Azalea, Riptide, Yuzuri, and Katsu. So it'll be nice to see Azalea and Katsu get some support. Now, they had previously stated that Outsiders was going to be a very dynamic draft environment, and that's very easy to see after seeing which heroes are going to be in the set, how many heroes are going to be in a set, and the next part of the article with all the Outsiders info. So they're also going to be doing hybrid cards in this set. If you come from Magic, like multicolor cards, so the hybrid cards are going to be dual class cards, meaning the one they gave an example for is Codex of Frailty. This card it's an Assassin Ranger action, so it can be used in an Assassin deck or a Ranger deck. So there's a lot of flexibility there when it comes to the drafting experience. And on top of that, you have 2 heroes from each class to pick from. So this draft environment, not to discredit previous draft environments with Flesh and Blood, this feels like it's actually going to be a true draft environment, a true draft experience where you have choice and it's a little bit easier to pivot. You can be more flexible, if that makes sense. So that should make for a very enjoyable draft environment. I'm very much so looking forward to it. As far as other tidbits that we got about Outsiders, we know that Riptide is going to be a trap-based Ranger, so that's interesting. I'm wondering if maybe he can play traps from his hand so that he can still utilize his arsenal for arrows, or if maybe, since he's more trap-based, if his arsenal will be used for traps, then maybe he will be using the anchor that's in his art as a sort of melee weapon, so we'll have like a melee Ranger. That'd be pretty cool, and obviously since he's a Ranger, he would also be able to be built with a bow in mind. But LSS is quite good at surprising us, so I wouldn't be surprised if none of that was true. We'll see. We also see here with the heroes that Yuzuri, her adult border is the Pitts border on her hero card, and her young card is actually the Mysteria border, the same as Katsu and Benji. So her backstory lies with Katsu and Benji, or just with Mysteria in general, and there is a little tidbit about two ninjas coming to find Yuzuri, and where is this? A duo of wandering Mysterian ninjas threatened to trigger memories of Yuzuri's origin, a time and place where she didn't fit in, where she felt like an outsider. So I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Yuzuri is the main figurehead for the set, and I would assume that Katsu and Benji are the two ninjas that are coming to find her and triggering said memories. My crazy theory is that she, didn't feel at home there and left, maybe wandered a bit. But I think that she may have been in some kind of traumatic accident where she got really injured and probably lost her memories. And then clearly, it seems like she's a bad bitch. Like, she looks like a boss. If you look at her art, she's got this like really cool fur and also kind of black tech cloak on, and underneath it she's wearing a full like black tech suit. And I'm wondering if maybe she was injured to the point where she needs that black tech to kind of survive or operate, or if she's just had like augmentations, like a cyberpunk style, or maybe she just wears the black tech suit. Maybe she's totally fine. Who knows? Something interesting about the art, it looks like you can't see anything regarding her arms. The cloak covers them, so I'm wondering if maybe she has some kind of augmentation for her arms as well, like some kind of blade arm or something like that. If you look at her hip area, it looks like she might have some kind of claw kind of on her left hip. But if you look at that further, it looks like it's just part of her suit. I don't think it's a claw. So I stand by my opinion that I don't think we can see her arms at all. So I'm very curious about that. It could literally just be that her arms are just cloaked. Nothing more complicated. It could also be something really cool. So we'll see what happens. Riptide has 38 health. That's interesting. 19 as a young hero. So I'm wondering if, since he's trap based and those are D-reacts, that maybe he's really tanky, and to make up for that they gave him less health, because he's going to have effectively a ton of health. Now, I don't know how he'll match up against wizards. Maybe that's going to be his weak matchup because of that. Maybe not so much Bullander, but I guess also Kano is just everyone's weakness. You can't really do much about a combo deck for the most part. But yeah, so that's cool. The heroes are cool. It's really cool to see 6 different heroes in this set, and I don't think anyone at all, like 100% at all, was expecting to see Ninja in this set. The fact that it's Ranger, Assassin, and Ninja, right? And when I say Ninja, I mean generic Ninja, not Phi. These are all classes that have either fallen behind in terms of power level, or Assassin is new. So classes with less competitive viability, if you will. And the fact that these are the first classes that get hybrid cards to kind of introduce some flexibility and some intriguing design space. It's good that it's with, what I'm saying is essentially it's good that it's with these 3 classes. This is the best way they could have gone about it. Kind of in the same way that I was of the opinion that Emperor was the best way to initially test multi-classing, because Warrior and Wizard have literally nothing to do with each other and have 0 compatibility. Now, people have made Emperor work. He's actually really good in Blitz after the fact. But it's better than designing, say, a Brute Mechanologist or a Guardian Brute. Like, things that can very easily synergize with each other and honestly be pretty terrifying. So Emperor was a good design on that front to kind of test the waters, and I believe that these 3 classes are a very good selection. They're a perfect selection for which classes to test the waters for on hybrid cards. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be a huge hit. It's interesting that there's no talents in this set, considering that they said, I believe there was like 11 or 12 talents or something that they had planned. I feel like 11 is ringing true. Don't take my word on that though. And that each region has its own talent attributed to it. So we still might see the Pitts talent maybe in a supplemental set or something like that, but I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see it here. I'm wondering if they're just saving it for later, or if maybe they think they need to go away from talents. I can't imagine they would get rid of them entirely. I'm pretty sure we're still going to see tons of talents moving forward. It just might be a break from talents for this set. It definitely balances out with the fact that we're getting hybrid cards, So there's that. So let's talk about Pro Tour 3. So the third Pro Tour has been announced. It has been announced for Baltimore, Maryland, which has got me extremely excited because, as I've stated probably a couple times in past videos, I got into the game 2 weeks after Pro Tour New Jersey, and being a resident of New Jersey, once I got really invested into the game, that kind of hit harder and harder. Like, it still stings that I missed that. I missed the first Pro Tour, the fact that it was in New Jersey, and the fact that if I got into the game a month earlier, that may have been different. Those regrets are kind of gone now because Baltimore is so close to New Jersey. You know, I've talked to people at my LGS. We've got a Airbnb booked already. It's probably at least 10 of us going to be there. It's going to be a pretty cool testing house for the downtime. We'll probably do some drafts as well. And it's going to be a little bit cheaper for everyone than if they would have booked a hotel for themselves, whether in pairs or separately. So that's really cool. I'm looking forward to that a lot. It's going to be at the Baltimore Convention Center, which I used to go to yearly for Otakon years and years ago, before Otakon started being hosted in Washington, D.C. The harbor area is actually a pretty beautiful area. Something I do want to mention is that I've seen a lot of fear, I guess, from people. A lot of people being worried about the Baltimore area. Listen, statistics are one thing. It does have a fairly high crime rate, but I've been there before. Okay, so if you are out in the day, you're going to be fine. If you are a little weary, walk around with a buddy. The thing you would more need to be concerned about is once the sun goes down, that town kind of transforms in a not so great way. And I'm not trying to instill more fear. Like I said, you'll be fine if you're within a group. You're not going to like get attacked or get mugged or anything like that. But if you are going to walk around by yourself, if you're going to walk around solo, just be mindful of your surroundings. Try not to attract any attention to yourself, especially if you have a long walk back to your hotel. But otherwise, the harbor area is beautiful. You know, there's an aquarium there. There's a bunch of really good restaurants. You'll see street performers probably. But yeah, don't be worried. Don't let anything discourage you from coming. You'll have a great time. Just be smart about it. You know, don't run around with your whole collection on your back. Don't leave your cards in your car. You know, the rules that always apply. Never leave your cards in your car. If you're going to leave them in your car, at least leave them in your trunk. But even then, I still wouldn't trust it. So that's all booked up. Really looking forward to that. Still trying to figure out exactly who's going to be coming on exactly which days, because I'm going to be going down a little bit earlier with my wife, just so we can spend some time in the area. I believe everyone will be leaving on Sunday or Monday, depending. I figured we'd book Monday as well, so people could do the full event, full Sunday, and not feel pressured to, you know, leave their stuff in their car, like their luggage, and then drive home after the fact. You know, this way you can sleep in, go home the next day after a full night's rest. But that weekend's going to be pretty standard. Things start on Thursday with the Players Banquet, which you'll need either a Pro Tour invite to get into or an invite that is included with a special package deal. I'm going to try to buy that. I don't know if it's going to be limited. I assume it will. I also don't know how much it's going to cost, but I'm definitely interested and going to look into that once those become available. The Pro Tour starts on Friday with day one. The calling is on Saturday for day one. Pro Tour day two is on Saturday. And then Sunday is Pro Tour day 3, calling day 2, and the Battle Hardened. So between that and side events that I'm sure will be constantly firing, especially since Outsiders will be out as a draft format, it's going to be an awesome weekend. So if you're even remotely considering coming, just do it. It's going to be a blast. So moving on to ProQuest and the SCGCON. So one of the reasons I've been MIA, you know, just life, really, but been trying to get some practice in and some teching for the SCGCON, and I've just been pretty busy with that. But going into that weekend, I was going to play in the Super Armory, the Battle Hardened, and the ProQuest. So I'm playing all 3 days. I was staying at Harmony Suites, which, by the way, if there's ever an event at the Meadowlands and you're booking for the weekend, stay at Harmony Suites. It's got a really cool atmosphere to it, since the sunlight comes in through the roof. So at night it's dark in there, but the way the lighting is set up in there with these hanging trellises all over the place, it looks really cool. But that hotel is literally right next to the expo center. It's a 1-minute walk. That was so convenient. It was amazing. Plus, the hotel had an open air restaurant, and next to it, there was like a seating area just for whatever. At night, every night, there were people down there jamming Magic and Flesh and Blood, and that was really cool. So, going in to that weekend, I was expecting 3 different categories of decks to be very prevalent that weekend. Aggro decks being Briar, Dash, and Fi. Ice decks to counter said aggro decks being Icelander, Lexi, and Oldhim. And some miscellaneous decks that for one reason or another I believed would show up in force, being Bravo, Dromai, and Rhinar. Now for the most part I was pretty spot on with all of that. So I don't have the statistics for the Super Armory or the ProQuest, but the Battle Hardened we do have the statistics for. There was 130 players. There were 24 Fi, 16 Dash, 16 Dromai, 11 Bravo, 9 Icelander, 9 Briar, 9 Rhinar, 8 Oldhim, 7 Viserai, 7 Lexi, 4 Dory, 3 Kano, 2 Katsu, 2 Azalea, and 1 of Bolton, Arachne, and Levia. So at this event with 130 players, every hero was at least represented. The 9 heroes that I mentioned were in the top 10, in addition to Viserai, who is the hero that I was on for the whole weekend. So the aggro decks are the main decks I was afraid of for this meta. And I really feel like those ice decks came out in force because of that. The miscellaneous decks, we had Bravo, Dromai, and Rhinar. Both Bravo and Rhinar had good finishes when it came to the calling at Worlds in San Jose, I believe. Dromai is just kind of like a well-positioned deck in general, in my opinion, and players are getting better and better with Dromai and figuring her out more and more. It kind of feels like a situation where Michael Hamilton discovered, Bullander. It feels like we're getting to that point with Dromai. With players getting better and better with her, I'm expecting to see a lot more of her moving forward, especially considering the results from last weekend and the first week, really in general, of the ProQuest season, because we've seen a lot of Oldhim. I'd say that's pretty favorable for Dromai, so we'll see how this season plays out, but I think we're going to see a lot of Dromai. So with all those heroes in mind, I built my Viserai deck to play around that meta, and I think I did good with calling what would be there. Now, my performance, on the other hand, not so great. But, I went to learn, I went to gain experience, and I think I got just that. So I'm really not disappointed with my performance. It was a little funny to go there, kind of just hanging out on Friday before the Super Armory, and then Super Armory gets posted, and I'm against Brody Spurlock in round 1, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just die. So I played against Brody Spurlock on Icelander. He's really cool. The game is really good. I don't know that it was particularly close, but I got him down to single digits, I'm pretty sure. I had a good time. He's an incredible player that's constantly top 8ing. He's very consistent. I'm not saying I was discouraged. I wasn't, but I was not expecting to win. Not saying I wasn't trying, but I wasn't expecting it. It's just a matter of experience. That being said, the Super Armory did not go well. It is what it is. But we had a good time. Saturday rolled around. That's the event I was talking about with the 130 people in the Battle Hardened. That day was crazy. Ethan Van Sant, or Mansant, streamed that day. That was really cool as well. His production has gone through the roof. It's honestly stellar. There were quite a few moments during that event that I was actually just sitting at tables just watching the stream. And speaking of Mansan, I actually got to meet him. I got him to sign my Levia, so that's pretty cool. I got one of his Plasmafet tokens as well. Really cool guy. I kind of got to shoot the shit with him for a few minutes before he kind of got surrounded by other people, and I just figured I'd leave him be. I also got to meet Tommy Fresh last weekend. That was really cool. We ended up playing on Sunday, and it was a really good game, really close game. And afterwards, he beat me. I think I got him to 2. And I may have had a chance, but the last hand I got was a redliner with an unmovable, and there wasn't much there in terms of hope to block him out for that turn to then just, Vexing Malice him the next turn or something like that. It was a good game, but we got to hang out after the fact and just kind of talk. It was really nice meeting him and Mansant. Back to Saturday. So Saturday, I did not do well again. I actually did fairly decent on Sunday, so maybe I just had to get my bearings. I don't know. Yes, Saturday I did not do well. I did 1-3 drop. Yeah. Hurts to say, but it is what it is. We just got to get better, right? We just got to get more reps, get more practice in, get better. But my buddy Blake from We Make Best, another YouTube creator, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you know about them. They make some very spicy brews, very good brews, because Blake got to top 8 as first seed on Royal Briar. So that top 8 consisted of 3 Oldham, 2 Bravo, 2 Icelander, and 1 Briar, which was Blake. Again, Blake got first seed. He was undefeated for the first 7 rounds, I believe, and I think he lost he was 7-0, and he lost the last round. And I even walked up to him like, "Hey man, it's better now than in the top 8, right?" That being said, he did lose in the quarterfinals against an Oldham, the Oldham who actually won out the event. But it was really cool that Blake was able to get top 8, so we went out and celebrated that night. We got Korean barbecue, not only to celebrate that, but also as kind of like a goodbye, because Blake is from Australia, and he came out here to go to Worlds in San Jose, and then he kind of hung out, well, until now. He was hanging out with staying with his girlfriend. He saved up a bunch of money, was able to spend a lot of time abroad, and yeah, we were very, very happy to have him, because he was coming to our LGS every Wednesday, and it was sad to see him go, but he'll be back. Blake, we miss you, obviously. We'll see you at Pro Tour 3, I'm sure. But yeah, we went out for Korean barbecue. It was a great time. I've actually never had Korean barbecue until then, and holy crap, do I want to go again. That was phenomenal. So Sunday rolls around. My record on Sunday, I believe it was going to be 7 rounds, was 3-3, and then I dropped because at that point it was like, all right, well, it's 3-2 going into round 6. I was like, maybe there's a chance to place on something, and maybe there would have been if I went 4-3 in the end, but we were pretty tired, me and my friend Jimmy, from the weekend, and we were kind of just trying to bounce at that point. It's like, all right, is it worth 200 tickets to just stay and play another round? But it was a good day. I had so much better games that day. I beat 2 dashes pretty early on, and that felt good because I've been having some issues with dash, and one of the games was very convincing. And another big attraction for the weekend, I'm very into artist signatures on both my Magic cards and now my Flesh and Blood cards. I hadn't had any prior, but this weekend Mark Poole was there, so I got him to sign 3 of literally every card he has done for Flesh and Blood thus far. I had a couple extra Waning Moon signed just to have some extras for trade. A bit of a mix between just a normal black signature, a silver or gold, or like a shadowed silver or gold signature, because they all cost a different amount, and I wasn't about to spend $6 per signature for shadow on every single one. So I did like the more played cards with the shadow signature, but they all turned out really good. They all look awesome. My one issue throughout the weekend was that Blake was up there with me getting his card signed, and he got his Cold Foil Waning Moon signed, and I didn't have one. And after I saw that, I was like, man, I really want a Cold Foil Waning Moon now. Yeah, I kept asking people throughout the weekend. I asked the vendors. They didn't have any, and one vendor did give me a little tidbit that vendors aren't allowed to sell armory promos if they are an armory store, per policy with LSS. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that's why I can't find any. LSS, if you're listening, I heard that Yu-Gi-Oh! Does this thing where after a year they can sell the promos, so maybe we should do something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, so couldn't find one, was struggling to find one, and I saw Blake trading with a Lena Bell cosplayer. Went up to her, it's like, hey, do you have a Cold Foil Waning Moon? She's like, I do. And I'm like, holy crap, it's happening. Now, this cosplayer was awesome, by the way. When we showed up on Saturday, I believe, she was cosplaying. She had a big old sack. She was cosplaying Lena Bell from the shitty Xmas present card, so she had her like Christmas sack with her. She had a sack of Capri Suns and socks. How cool is that? So she could either give you a potion, essentially, the Capri Sun, or, a shitty Xmas present in the form of socks. And I thought that was incredible. She really went all the way with that cosplay. And I kind of wish there was a cosplay contest there so she could have won it. She was really cool. Kept some players hydrated, kept our feet toasty. She was looking for promos to trade for, and I had the Team Covenant SAP promos from Dynasty, which I'm not really a fan of. and she saw him and she'd never seen him before. So I was like, all right, I mean, do you want a rainbow spread of them, like just one of each, blue, yellow, and a red for the cold foil? And she was like, yeah, sure. So I think that worked out great for both of us. Went right over to Mark Poole. He was on lunch break, and I was like, all right, I'll catch him later. And as we're about to leave, I see him grabbing his sign, and I'm like, oh, he's ready, we can get his sign and go. And he flips it upside down, and I realize it says signature break, and I'm like, oh no, why? So I go over to him, I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to bother you, but like, how long do you think you're gonna be on signature break? Like, I saw you're on lunch, I just want to get an idea. And he's like, I don't know, we're in like 30 minutes. And my buddy Jimmy's like, yeah, we're about to leave. And I was like, oh, you could see my face. I was like, oh, come on. And he's like, how many cards you got? I'm like, I have one. I got that cold foil waning moon finally. And he's like, ah, come on over. So Mark was really cool. I actually hung out with him over the weekend while people were getting cards signed, just kind of shooting shit. And got the tidbit that he's got some cards coming out in Outsiders. So look forward to that. Really, really down to earth guy. Just we were talking about anime at one point, talking about Flesh and Blood art. Just Flesh and Blood is a game. The artists out there aren't just artists. But yeah, that was a great way to actually cap out the weekend, like to end the weekend on getting the one card that I was struggling to find signed by the artist that I wanted to sign it, and it looks awesome, for real. But yeah, that being said, that was the SCGCON New Jersey. It was a blast of a weekend, let me tell you. We do have an armory coming up locally on Wednesday this week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play in it. There is a 16-player cap, and we've heard rumors of a player coming down from Connecticut to sign up on Monday when the signups go live, and then apparently going to come right back down on Wednesday to, quote, spike the tournament. So we'll see how that goes. Tommy Fresh, I believe, is going to try and go as well. That I'm not upset about. It's the Connecticut guy. I'm just like, really, guy? Like, don't know who it is, but like, really? It just kind of sucks that like the locals that go to the armory every week for that store won't be able to compete in the armory, most likely. Like, some people are going to be able to line up in person to get signed up. Everyone else has to call in, and unfortunately, I'm in the office on Monday and Thursdays, so I can't just take my break and then go to the store and sign up for the event at the appropriate time. So I'm going to have to try and call in, and I've got a hunch that it's going to be pretty busy, and I'll probably miss out. So that sucks. Might be for the best, though. My performance on Viscerai into this meta has not been fantastic, and I was going to pivot to Oldhim, not because of the results from week 1 of ProQuest. I was actually going to pivot prior to it because I thought that he was well positioned, and lo and behold, but I didn't have enough time to get reps for the SCGCon to feel confident enough when I've been playing Viscerai for a while now, so I feel super confident on it. I did switch to Oldhim recently, and there's definitely room for a ton of improvement, and I need to get reps on it, but I got 2 draws in our last armory, and that didn't feel good. If I'm going to time that much, like, I need to play faster, I need to think faster, and I definitely need more reps on the deck, and I don't know that it's worth trying to play that at the ProQuest this upcoming week if I do get in. So unfortunately, I think I'm still going to be playing Viscerai for the event if I get in. It might just be a better idea for me not to play the event to save some money, but considering it's a 16-person cap, kind of the same reason people want to go to Spike It, getting top 8 shouldn't be too difficult. And then I can at least get Soraya sleeves. Maybe I can hold on to those as a collector's item or sell them to get my money back. It seems worth it to go. So we'll see what happens. I don't think I would completely scrub out on Viscerai. I think I could hold my own, at least to get to top 8, and then I'd probably lose to something more meta-relevant. I'll give him my best shot. We'll see what happens. I don't know if after that, since there's going to be plenty of time before Pro Tour Baltimore, if I'm going to switch to Oldhim or if I'm going to switch to Dromai. Both decks, I think, require a pretty good amount of play to get to a very learned point, definitely to get to a master point. Dromai more so. I might be playing a Dromai deck that is more physical leaned, like 0 for 4s than dragons, than most Dromai decks are. Maybe that might help transition me from the normal style of play to the dragon play. So I'm hoping for the best with that. We'll see how that goes. I do like Oldhim. I just need to get reps in on both, really. Dromai's got a lot of stuff going on all at once, so I definitely need to practice that. And Oldhim, I could very easily win by fatiguing, but I can't do that if I'm not playing at a very quick pace. And I'm also trying to not win with fatigue. I don't like that as a general game plan, mostly because I like to eat during events too. And that last armory, I not only drew twice, but I also got 0 breaks between rounds, which kind of sucked. but I want to play Oldhim in a more aggro fashion, which he's not an aggro deck, but he can definitely be more leaned towards aggro, and I believe that's where I want to be with him. That might not necessarily be the best meta call, but that's where I want to be with him. And talking about Oldhim, a lot of people are bringing up the fact that Oldhim is placing very well right now, and that's true. He is. But you have to consider the fact that most players were going into ProQuest season expecting Fi, Briar, and Dash, expecting a very aggro-heavy, aggro-strong meta. And to counter that, you go in with Ice Heroes. We could see that Lexi won that, I believe it was Battle Hard in Singapore, with pretty much a Yuki Lee Bender's build of Lexi, just putting in drill shots from Dynasty, and that's enough. Just put it right over the top. But it makes sense that Ice Heroes and also Bravo got to these top 8s. It just makes sense that they converted better. That being said, once they get to the top 8, it's not surprising to me that Oldhim would win or get to the finals, because in an environment where there are no time limits, Oldhim is heavily favored. He can fatigue you fairly easily. And it was actually pretty interesting to see on Sunday when we were driving home. I was watching the top 8 of the ProQuest from the SCGCON, and there was a match with Oldhim and Lexi, and the Lexi was actually on a meta call to try and fatigue Oldhim. They were running last ditch efforts. They were running light it up. They were running stuff that people don't usually run, and he was going for the fatigue plan against him. And I believe that he did get him down to literally 1 blue in the deck. But unfortunately, as Rangers do, Lexi got fatigued. So even with just 1 blue in the deck, the guy was able to just Winter's Wail every turn. I don't know if the guy was just doing this because he was so tired because the match was so long and he was just fed up with it, or if he was just going through the motions, but he took the hit, and then on the hit that would have killed him, he blocked with his gear. And then took the hit and died. And he's still winning for the fist bump and all that, but I assume he was just a little tilted at that point, because you're playing this long game with a build that you expect to be good against Oldhim, because you know to expect it, and it was good against him, but it just not good enough. Just didn't get there in the end, and I felt that. I felt for that guy watching that loss. I was just like, oh man, so close. But anyway, back on track. I don't think people need to be overly speculative right now that Oldhim needs to have a ban of some kind. People saying Crown of Seeds, or maybe an ice card of some kind to hit him and Icelander in some way, which I'm not really too sure which would be a good choice at that point. Maybe Winter's Bite or Winter's Claw or something. Or Winter's Grasp, that's what it's called. I don't know that anything needs to be touched yet. If you remember back from last year's meta, something would come out as the meta deck, and then the next big event, everything would be ready for that deck, everything would be ready to counter that deck, and it wouldn't get top. And that just kept happening week after week after week. Whatever the meta deck is, it got targeted, essentially. And I think until this week and maybe next week are over, until we see more results with ProQuest, I don't think anyone needs to get out on the streets with signs saying Oldhim needs a ban. We'll see. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Crown of Seeds is a very powerful card, but I can't help but feel that if they take that away from Oldhim, then he's kind of at a loss, He does run Crown of Providence into some matchups, so it isn't 100% the end-all be-all, There might be something they can touch, but after they touched Pulse of Eisenloft last year, before Worlds, he didn't really see much play after Nationals, because he saw a ton of play in the National season, then he got hit with Pulse of Eisenloft, and he saw way less play and less representation at Worlds, and just in general. And now, all of a sudden, he's back. Why? What changed? Well, Dash got better, Fi is still Fi, and Briar's still Briar. And even though players in the U.S. for a while were kind of off Briar, people outside of the U.S. were not. Briar was still a good deck. So we had those 3 decks, that mindset coming into the first weekend of ProQuest, and the counter is Ice again. Not to beat a dead horse. But yeah, I don't think anything drastic has to happen right now with Oldhim. I think he's fine. We'll see what happens with this week and next week with ProQuest. What happens with the results? If Oldhim is still prevalent, then maybe something needs to get suspended, But as of right now, I don't think any drastic steps need to be taken. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening while I babble on. Until next time, stay safe, keep playing great games. I'll catch you on the next one.